We need to have a little bit of a discussion here with how the format is warping, and, well, that ban list is probably going to wreck some stuff. Don't beg the 30% of you that have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. You think that, Cash Tier is not going to get on the next list. You're one of the wild people that is investing in Cash Tier right now. Please, smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. If you've been following the infinite uploads of Regional/Nationals breakdown, you've noticed something pretty common across the board. Wait, what's that? Super Heavy Samurai is doing good? Yeah, that's fine. All right, that's the new flavor of the month. We got to talk about Cash Tier out here. Well, duh, Robbie, it was the best deck last format. It's going to transition over to be the best deck in this format. I mean, it's just illogical. Can't believe people thought the Cash Tier would just simply fall off the face of the planet like that. Yeah, that's what's going on right now. You've definitely have noticed. Oh, there's a lot of Cash Tier. I believe that out of this weekend alone, Cash Tier was in 3 Nationals finals. Think about that. All right, that's actually an insane turnover. The only Nationals that I know that got overturned by that was by a Sprite Melfi deck that actually overcame Cash Tier. So, we didn't get a ban list, before SIAC. What are we kind of expecting here? I think the general consensus the players kind of coming to is about the end of the month. You have to realize right now that Konami really can't drop a list because we're in the midst of national season. You know how many people would be mad that their nationals got to play on a different list versus people that, had to play on the current list? All right, that's not fair to the competitive side of things. Before you're like, well, changing things up could actually benefit, the players that have had time to adapt to these sorts of conditions. Yeah, it could. An entire Wild West metagame could shake up a lot. But I don't foresee Konami doing that on the European national scale that's going on right now. I would say be patient. Wait for end of May, early June. I understand there's some bigger WCQs coming up here, but be patient. But the whole point of this video is to go, hey, Cash Tier is doing stuff. Yeah, no crap. Yeah, and I'm wearing a purple shirt. Can you be colorblind to the color purple? Anyway, it's neither here nor there. I mean, technically people can be oblivious to statistical data. It happens all the time. It always amazes me that people are like, oh, you showed the chart. You're like, oh my God, look at all these wins. And like, nah, Cash is still bad, Robbie. Like, still were people last format that said the Cash Tier wasn't the best deck. And I mean, look at that conversion turnover rate. So what do we, what are we expecting at this point in time? Like, I kid you not, before I sat down to film this video getting back from Bushiroad this weekend, I've already had a message from a friend of mine going, hey, I want to buy Cash Tier. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, yo, like this deck is probably going to get destroyed. Actually, this deck, I almost guarantee is going to get hit on the next list, especially when you've looked at how many events that this deck has had in the top cut. The biggest arguments that we've had with this deck are like, do you go after the Fenrir? Do you go after the Unicorn? Do you go after the Birth? There's so many different flavors of the sugar-coated rainbow for this deck that you've also got to think about reprint equity later on in the year. Those Megatins are coming out. I personally thought the Fenrir was a perfect candidate to shove to 1, but a lot of people are like, well, Robbie, it doesn't make sense for them to go after it right after they made it an ulti. I mean, it's the most splashable one, honestly. Like, you got to remember, other decks are playing, multiple copies of Fenrir. It's not just Cash Tier. The universal search system for itself, putting it to 1 checks all of the other decks that are using this and checks in its own deck. All right, we wipe all of that extra, stuff away just by restricting the card to 1. The other, the big culprit in the room is obviously Unicorn. Like the extra deck rip against Super Heavy Samurai. They picked the right one. Yeah, it's a pain. I get it. All right. Somebody also wanted to ban Nightmare Corruptor Ibley, but they're not going to do that. Here's my take on Nightmare Corruptor Ibley. So while we're talking about this deck. So Nightmare Corruptor Ibley is easily outable by Lingaribo. Well, we kind of go back to the little paradox here. If Nightmare Corruptor Ridley starts to see less play, then people cut the Lingaribo for better extra deck outs. And then, once an event goes by and there's less Lingaribo and people see that, then the Nightmare Corruptor Ridleys return back into the format here. And then people will go another event, they'll put Lingaribo back in because they see an uptick. And do you see like the kind of endless cycle that you've got going here for this? Nightmare Corruptor Ridley has been on a pretty downward spiral in terms of play. Like, that's no secret at this point. I actually think it's been Sprite that's been playing it more because they can gigantic it out. And you just hand it on over to your opponent, you're like, this is your problem now. But the biggest issue with that whole line of play is like, you already have to play the Nightmare Corruptor Ridley in the deck, and then, if you see it opening here, you're like, well, you can't really do full Sprite combo at that point in time. So I don't... You've also got to remember Nightmare Corruptor Ridley's getting the reprint here, too. Like, Konami's not going to ban a card that's got reprinting up here on the block. While Nightmare Corruptor Ridley is an inherently unfair card at the end of the day, Konami has already basically put in stone that we're not going for this, all right? It's obvious as day at this point in time that that's what's going on. So no, we're not going to go after that. The best famous pick has been, honestly, Birth going to 1 is pretty good. Birth taking away, the whole little special summon toggle ability, the free little... I'm going to go ahead and summon my additional friend onto the field here for essentially free. Birth is one of the best cards that the deck has going for it. And there's the Abulsis, the Mind Hacker. The entire duality of the conversation for Mind Hacker is, would Konami ban a prize card? I don't actually know about... the Abulsis facilitates the additional huge chunk of mill that the deck has going for it. And to top things off, is it better than Shangri-La? If you take away Diabolsis, you got to remember that the zone locking mechanic kind of loses a little bit of its little flavor, the thing that makes it good. Speaking of the zone lock, we did get the revision to the policy documents over the weekend here, which did officially now include zone block marker placements, as long as they, like a giant X on them or whatnot. Yeah, you have to have a giant X on them, and then some sort of indication that's very clear as day as to, its intent and purpose to not mix it up with another physical token. All right, there's been discussions like, well, Konami just went ahead and they just put the no zone for you markers in the policy documents, which means now they're going to go ahead and they're going to ban Shangri-La at this point in time. I'd definitely not be opposed to seeing Shangri-La go away, or even limited to 1 in my personal opinion. But it does bring up a good conversation point that if they've now put this into the policy document, we can go ahead and, clean it up on the next possible list here. But the entire landscape for this deck is... I think it's a very, very, very bad call right now to want to pick up Kashtira. We've already gone past the point of what I would have called the Necros effect last list, where Necros dodged that ban list and we're good for another list. That was last last list. All right, a little bit iffy on things right now, but I'm expecting as time goes on here towards the end of the month here, we will see that clean up on the... it's essentially written down at this point in time, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Players are going to play the game of, oh my god, like, this serves no real purpose. Yeah, once again, you had 3 nationals this weekend where this deck was in the finals. I believe Swedish nationals had, half of their top cut was Kashtira, and you're gonna have people out here going, no, like, I beat Kashtira every week, Robbie. Yeah, that's fine. Outliers exist. I bring this up every single video. There will always be the one story of, I was better than the Kashtira duelist that I played against. Yeah, it happens all the time. All right, it exists, but that's not the norm right now. All right, everybody else in the world's struggling. It's cool that you can beat the deck every single week. Also, on the topic of Super Heavy Samurai, I don't think at this stage we'll see a hit to the deck. If Konami's really worried about things, they could put a little bit of a slap on the wrist on it. But at this point in time, I think Super Heavy Samurai, I'm going to particularly dodge this next list. I just wanted to throw that little conversation point here because I've already read people complaining about Super Heavy Samurai. The deck is incredibly generic as it is. I'd rather talk about Kashtira deck profiles than analyze Super Heavy Samurai. I changed 3 cards in the last build. Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.